Okay, so really wanted today to talk about, I get many questions at these events over the last few years to go, what's it take to move to industry? And the more I talk to people, sometimes it's the wrong question to be asking. The question that you need to address is, what do I want? And you've heard that again and again today. And is a move to industry actually what's going to meet those goals that I'm setting for myself? So put it in perspective, and Ben showed some great photos already, but Patheon are a large-scale contract manufacturing and development organisation here in Brisbane. We're just manufacturing. What that means is we make liquid drugs, could be anti-cancer, anti-rheumatoid arthritis, could be any other protein-based biotherapeutic for a client. We're not making any products for ourselves, so we're a service-driven organisation making products that save lives. And it's always with our clients' patients at the end of the medicine that we're making that we put our focus on. Now, when I was a young person in high school, I wanted to cure cancer. Now, I thought I was going to achieve that by finding a cure to cancer, because if you consider my age, that was thought to be achievable within a lifetime back then in the 80s. I cure cancer today, but I do it through our clients and the medicines that they make. So that's my goal, and I feel I have achieved it. So Thermo Fisher, who's worked with Thermo Fisher pipettes or plasticware, Erlenmeyer flasks, something in the lab, equipment, we do a lot of stuff. However, I'm part of just that service part of the industry labelled under Patheon. So, should you consider a role in industry? This is my ad hoc advice. There's differences, I'll talk a bit more in the next slide, but don't think one or the other is less stressful, it's just a different kind of stress. My biggest challenge when I moved from academia to industry is learning to fail fast. You need to get used to dropping a project without finishing it. So attention to detail is critical. Moderate OCD is an asset, I would say. But industry really follows the 80-20 rule. Getting 80% of the way is good enough. If the product is sellable, that's good. Go, move forward, next stage. And I wanted to make it better. I wanted to make it perfect, but we weren't being paid to make it great or perfect. We were being made to make products good enough to sell. If we got it past that first stage gate, you could then put a little bit more time and refine that product and potentially make it better as you went along. That was my biggest learning. So if you're OCD tendencies and you really love to understand the finite perfection and true root cause of the science, industry may not be for you. But I knew that my self-motivations, I wanted to make the world better, I wanted to cure cancer. I cure cancer now, but through others. And that for me is enough. And there's no I in the word team. So, and we've already heard that today, thank you to Evolve. You achieve no glory in isolation in industry. There is no reward for individual contributions. Only by you raising the whole team together are you successful. And the R&D is very, very small in industry. And those jobs are fairly rare, but it seems to be the job most people are interested in. For example, as I said, next door, we don't even have R&D. We are manufacturing. But in my previous roles, I've worked in R&D, but the R was tiny and the D was huge. And my last piece of advice, get your CV industry ready. Your academic CV will not get you an industry job. And you're hearing that from someone who failed the first 32 tries of getting an industry interview. And I finally realised maybe my CV wasn't up to scratch. Kind of redid this. This is, by the way, mostly pre-Google, so I couldn't Google industry CV. And finally someone took a chance on me and I made it. All right, So, as I mentioned before, R&D and industry, they're just different, and choose what fits your strengths. So, in industry, your research development could be across multiple products. It's usually applied science to get a sellable product. So those goals are aligned to what the market requires, and it will go through stage gating. If you're going to fail fast, that saves a lot of money, and then that money gets invested in the next product, move on. We've already talked about the 80-20 rule, be prepared to let go. And industry often takes a novel research and applies it to a new industry paradigm. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone to say, actually, 2 commercial products that we've made next door, I first worked on in manufacturing in 2001. I've seen it have 5 owners before it's with its current owner, and each time that product, really great products, failed a clinical trial. So that company folds, sells it on, new company picks it up and tries it with a different application, and so it goes on. It's found its home in a cell therapy where it's actually used to sequester and enrich cell populations, which are then administered back to the patient. As I've already mentioned, there's no I in team. Interdepartmental and with an intra-departmental collaboration is expected and is rewarded. Time pressures impact the whole team, not just you, and the projects can be multi-billion. So if everyone's got to pull in and dig deep, you're all staying late. You're all working extra for the next few weeks to get it over the line. It can be a challenge at times in a high-pressure, volatile environment to achieve work-life balance, so you really want to dig deep into that resilience. And strong organisation skills are imperative, but advancement of your career is not dependent on time. You can have very rapid career advancement to senior management positions. It is based on your performance, not on the amount of time you've been in role. And you were paid for performance, but no payment is guaranteed. So there are years in my history where I've worked for companies and there was no bonus, there was no pay rise that year because the company didn't have the money to do it because we weren't returning on our shareholder prices. And permanent positions are readily available, but there is high competition. For one of our graduate roles we had recently, we had up to 400 applicants. So there are a lot more roles out there, and I'm really passionate and delighted about it because I left Australia for 19 and a half years because there weren't roles in Australia. So absolutely delighted to come back. Why would you choose academia? Well, maybe you want to stay researching a single topic. Maybe you love that basic research, finding out why, and getting to that true understanding and knowledge. Your goals are project-based, and hey, you can follow a pathway. Something really interesting came out of your research. You can go down a pathway and explore that more. If you're in industry, you're on that path, or you cut it and you move on. And novel research really helps fuel what those future directions in industry may be. You may be rewarded for being an individual contributor, and self-glory is possible. So if you know that being recognised as the most amazing researcher in the world is one of your intrinsic motivators, please don't move to industry. You really will not be happy. And I say that because there are some amazing academics out there, and they're the best they could be. One of my best friends is an academic up at JCU in Cairns, and man, by the time she moved to JCU, she had 50 Nature papers to her name. I am not worthy of her amazing abilities to do this amazing research, of which some are now in spin-offs. So time pressures generally impact you or a small team of people, generally around, oh my God, that grant, I've only got 3 weeks left, I've got to get it done, help, right, but I have all this other stuff to do. And It's really stressful still. But the projects in academia are generally smaller scale. It'll be great when R&D is, if we say, financed equally across all of Australia. And depending on the grant, because I know when it's grant time it certainly doesn't feel it, but sometimes you have that space to be innovative and creative and generally less pressured to go look at some interesting science, as long as you're still fulfilling the roles of that grant. Strong organisational skills are an asset wherever you go, so incredibly important in both industries. And on the downside in academia, the average primary grant holder is a lot older than most of you in this room, but it does provide steady, if sometimes slow, career progression and advancement prospects. However, you are a government employee, you are guaranteed a pay increase annually, and what I would say is if you're an ECMR and you are considering childbearing, having children in the next few years, look carefully, because you'll get much better support and prospects in an academic role than you necessarily will with the statutory, 6 weeks paid leave in a typical industry role. And academia will give you 6 months paid leave. So that is something for consideration if you are thinking about becoming a parent. However, on the downside, there are many tenured roles, and it is tough to continually feel like you are looking to, justify your existence on a year-by-year basis. When we look at the skills, though, there are some that are really important across either, and some play a bigger role in some or the other. So there are two that kind of span, and they are data analytics, we've heard that today, and problem-solving skills. Probably more important, if you're staying in academia, will be that ability to think outside the box, be innovative and creative. That is rewarded because you come up with some amazing new ideas. There is a lot of this publish or perish, and really getting your publications into highly regarded peer-reviewed journals, and a focus on getting those grants approved, which, especially when you're an ECMR, without the sponsorship of a more senior accredited grant holder, can be very challenging. So you are and can be rewarded as an individual contributor and get that moment of glory and make some amazing science happen. And as I said, you are rewarded for innovation and creativity. Now, while you can be rewarded in industry for that as well, it is generally in a context of delivering something. Specifically in industry, the ability to network to get what you need to move forward and really help support is critical. But I think we've heard today perhaps that's in the wrong box, and actually it's equally important wherever you're going. Very strategically driven projects are the focus of industry, and then always having a continuous improvement mindset. How can I do it better, faster, and for less money? Because that means profit back in the shareholder's pocket. So in my role as the boss next door, I am held accountable to a budget that I must deliver on. And to be very frank, if I don't deliver on it 3 years in a row, I'm gone. And therefore the KPI focus, so key performance indicators, I must meet my targets. I must, or I lose my job. That's as far as it is. And at my job, there is no discretionary process. It's just, yeah, it's not working. You're out.
There's no performance management.
There's no performance management, at this level anyway. But everything I do is about with the patient in mind. So whatever I'm delivering for one of our clients, it's about the patient they're serving. And I love that aspect of my role. Resilience is so key in industry because it is heartbreaking when a client fails its phase 3 trial. And we had this year, an Australian client, I thought they were going to make it. I thought their product was amazing. They had sunk $780 million into that product in the last 2 years, and it failed its critical phase 3 trial, and they're gone, folded, nada. So it's really heartbreaking when you think of the patients at the end of it, that perhaps the way the clinical protocol was written caused it to fail, as opposed to, maybe they set too stringent a criteria. It could have still added a lot of value. So looking forward to that product being picked up and used somewhere else. And as I've mentioned, it can be quite intense. Now, things that work across both: team player, collaboration, accountability, own yourself, own your deliverables, deliver and say what you do and do what you say. Set a positive culture. A rising tide rises all boats and makes everyone around you successful. So if I think about my brand, I'm at a stage in my career where it's about actually nurturing the ecosystem, not just a job that I do next door, but a huge part of my networking is around supporting that next generation. And then communication, people leadership, if you want to be successful in either, they're good. Human management skills are great to have. And wherever you work, you must work with integrity. Thank you.